This is the place where NFL legends live on and share their stories. This is the place for our spotlight on the positive segment, sharing what's good in the world of sport. This is also the place for the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. This place I speak of, Thursday Night Tailgate. Let's say hello to your hosts, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari. Guys, take it away.
Thank you, Joe. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us on Thursday Night Tailgate, where your favorite NFL legends live on. Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari here to do our best to brighten up the next couple of hours for you. TNT is brought to you by the great folks over at Kyvan Foods, Coastal Orthopedics, and the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory, plus our wonderful friends over at the NFL Alumni Association and the Gridiron Greats. Tonight, Bob and I were looking forward to sharing 5 more great guests with you. First up, we'll get a return visit from the Dean of Atlanta Sports Talk Radio, Mr. Beau Bock. Then, as you know, former Patriots Pro Bowl running back Tony Collins, he'll join us in his regular weekly time slot. Following Tony, another former Patriots running back, Scott Lockwood, will join us. And Scott is going to be participating in an event that's near and dear to our hearts, a ride to help raise money for the Kevin Turner Foundation and the fight against ALS. So we look forward to hearing more about that and many more things when Scott joins us a little bit later on in this hour. We'll kick off hour number 2 with our good friend and TNT Hall of Famer Paul Alexander from Root Sports Pittsburgh. And then we'll round out the show with former Oklahoma and Chicago Bears linebacker Dante Jones. So we're set to have a lot of fun here tonight on Thursday Night Tailgate. So sit back, relax, and let us take your mind off everything else going on in your life for the next couple of hours. But let's start things off like we always do, and that's by bringing in my co-host, Mr. Bob-Lazzari. Bob, how are you tonight, my friend?
Hi, Chris. I'm doing okay. How about you?
Oh, very well, thank you. As we were talking, off air, had an opportunity to go down Monday to Augusta National and to the Masters practice round with my son, and we got this. And we had a little bit of rain and thunderstorm problems on and off the course a couple of different times, but got about 5.5 hours in at Augusta National, which, as everyone knows, is my favorite place on the planet. So really enjoyed myself. Always love being on those hallowed ground, Bob. There's certainly nothing on the planet quite like it.
That's good to hear that you at least got out there, Chris. It's torrential rains up here, twice this week, just torrential. In fact, it's still coming down right now, but it looks like we're out of the woods as far as snow. So I'm looking forward to spring, my friend, as you know.
I know you are, Bob. And, yeah, I mean, I'm sure you're kind of getting the same fronts that kind of went through, I guess yesterday at Augusta National. Unfortunately canceled the par 3 contest, which I think it was the first time ever that they canceled the par 3 contest, which was disappointing. But, yeah, I mean, here we are. We're actually, I don't know if you saw any of the coverage today from Augusta National, but even for us, it's a little chillier than normal. This morning we were in the upper 40s. I think that today's high got, into the upper 50s. So, here we are in April, and it was a cold, very windy day at Augusta National. We're going to have another one tomorrow, so we'll see how well the guys survive. Charlie Hoffman, unbelievable round, 65 today. Good for Charlie. Got a 4-stroke lead, which is the largest first-round lead going all the way back to 1955. So we'll see how he progresses from there. But the weekend, Bob, is supposed to be beautiful.
That's good to hear. They're saying here, and again, we get what you get probably a few days later. But, yeah, by the weekend, it should be clearing up here.
Before we get to our next segment, Bob's Take segment, it's with a very heavy heart that we say that we lost one of our TNT alumni and former L.A. Rams linebacker Bob Fields on Monday. Bob passed from a very sudden stroke. He played his college ball at St. Mary's out in California, and he was an undrafted free agent signed by the Rams in 1978. And following Bob's playing days, he spent 32 years as a local TV news and sports anchor, plus a news director for stations in California, New Mexico, Colorado, Montana, and Texas. He was a member of the board of directors for the NFL Alumni Association, and he will be very sorely missed. Our condolences go out to his family, his friends, and everyone at the NFL Alumni Association. Like I say, Bob was a great guy and a great supporter of the show, and we will very sorely miss him. I want to observe a moment of silence in honor of Bob and to thank him and honor his memory.
Hi, this is former Rams QB Jim Everett, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, a.k.a. TNT, and it's explosive in here with my buddies, the hosts, Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari, and we're listening to all this on the Armed Forces Radio Network. So take it away, Ben.
All right, we, as you know, Bob, as happens every week, around the calendar, right? There's never an off week around the NFL, so a lot more things, I should say, going on in the NFL this week that I want to get your take on. So as we get into Bob's take segment, I think the biggest news, for me, Bob, over the last couple of days has been Tony Romo's decision to walk away from the game and taking CBS's offer to start his broadcasting career. And what's amazing about all of that, Bob, is CBS has immediately made him their number one color commentator, replacing Phil Simms, and Romo is going to be partnering with Jim Nantz. So from the football side, for the Cowboys, they're going to free up $14 million in cap space. Romo would have counted $24.7 million against the cap this year had he stayed. He's only going to count $10.7 this year, $8.9 million next year. And Romo obviously citing health concerns, for his decision to walk away. But Bob, your take on Tony Romo retiring and becoming immediately the number one analyst for CBS.
No, Chris, I was shocked, and I'm not going to believe any sports journalist out there that said they saw this coming or they knew something like this might happen. I mean, all of us basically were waiting to see where Romo would end up. Would it be in Denver? Would it be in Houston? It was just a matter of what he was going to do. He kind of came out and said, I want to play, and the whole thing of him leaving Dallas was that he still had a lot of football left in him. And the fact that he had aspirations of a broadcasting career, that might not have shocked anyone. But for him to take over that position for Phil Simms, again, I did not see this coming, Chris. I mean, when I read about it, Phil Simms is a beloved guy up here in the Northeast. And I'm reading some articles where people thought he was kind of aloof. They thought him and Jim Nantz weren't the best pairing. I mean, I never saw anything like that. I mean, I thought they were good together. I thought Simms was kind of pretty direct in his analysis, wasn't too controversial. I thought he had a good sense of humor. And for him to just basically be demoted, I mean, he has a few years on this contract, Chris, and I don't know how he takes a job as possibly the second part of the second team on CBS or in the studio, or now they're saying maybe New York radio. I don't know where he goes from here. I still think his services would be in demand, but I think everyone, I speak for a lot of people, I didn't see it coming. I thought it was unfair, and my goodness, it kind of tells you where the business is headed, Chris. Romo, a guy who I guess is well-liked, much younger, probably more popular in certain areas of the country, dated the Hollywood starlet, et cetera, and without an ounce of what broadcasting experience will go into the booth, and that's what Howard Cosell referred to as the jockocracy of jocks just infiltrating the broadcast booth without any training. It's kind of sad in a way, but, Chris, it's the way of the world.
Yeah, Bob, and I share your shock. Not so much that Romo would step into broadcasting. I mean, we've seen hundreds of guys do that. But to bump Phil Simms, and I'm with you, Bob. I never and we're not insiders. We don't know what the relationship with Simms and Nantz is or isn't, right? And I don't want to speculate on anything like that. But I'm with you. I thought they were good together. I thought Phil Simms was very good. I still think Phil Simms is very good. To think that Tony Romo comes right out, to your point, Bob, with no broadcasting background or anything else, and he immediately steps into the number one position there along Nance is sort of mind-boggling to me. I mean, I don't know if there's another instance where that happened, but yeah, I like Simms, I like Nance, I like them together, and I thought they did a heck of a job. And I'm certainly curious to see how Romo steps into that role. But I think the bottom line is, and I agree with you, I think this is very unfair to Phil Simms. Whether he ends up in a number 2 slot, if you will, with CBS and goes on, with somebody else as a partner and does a great job, which I'm sure he would. Okay, but I think it's grossly unfair to him, and we'll see how it works out in the end. But maybe this is just that as simple as you put it, Bob, a younger guy who has a lot of cachet coming from the Cowboys, and who he's dated across just is that there's more appeal to that. Mm-hmm. Maybe, I guess we'll see. And staying sort of in the same vein, Bob, Stephen A. Smith was very critical of the attention and the adulation people are giving to this Tony Romo decision. He points out that Romo won 2 playoff games in 9 years. He made $128 million over the course of his career, and he thinks that this whole adulation and attention and all this that Romo's decision is getting, it's all about Romo's likability, not his production, if you will, on the field. He pointed out that Vinny Testaverde retired as a Cowboy, didn't get this much attention. Our friend Drew Bledsoe retired as a Cowboy, didn't get this much attention. Now I know they didn't spend their whole careers in Dallas as Tony did. But it's curious to me as well, that is this all based on the fact that Tony, he seems like a good guy, smile on his face, that sort of thing. And as Stephen A. points out, Bob, his likability, is that the reason that all of this is getting that much attention? And really based on Romo's career on the field, does it really deserve this much attention?
Well, Chris, in a way, he makes a few good points. But I think you got to look at this for what it is also. Stephen A. Smith knows the business. So, if he thinks this is something that just totally is shocking and doesn't happen in that business, and for a guy that's known to give his opinions and to have, quote-unquote, shock type journalism as part of his repertoire, I can't take him all the way serious, but the good points he makes is, he's a guy that's kind of did overshadow the North Carolina championship the other night when they're leading with the story like this, and maybe that has nothing to do with Tony Romo and nothing to do with anyone involved in that. But again, this is a guy that knows the business. He should know where his bread is buttered. So in a way, Chris, he makes some points, but then again, maybe he's not the best guy to be talking about it, because let's face it, he has reaped some of the benefits of journalism like this. So that's what I take it for. Don't look too far into it.
And Bob, for the last several weeks, we've been talking about the potential for Adrian Peterson to sign with the Patriots. We'll talk about it a little bit more later on in the half hour when Tony Collins joins us. But the Patriots didn't just bring in AP for a visit. They brought him in and they put him through a workout, Bob. And I'm guessing it just see exactly what does he have left and how much can his body react and that sort of thing. But this also would seem to be the perfect case for AP to be able to weigh in whether is it really all about the money and he's going to go whoever has the highest bid, if you will, or does he take the opportunity to sign with New England because it gives him one last best chance, right, to win a ring. But, Bob, curious to get your take on AP visiting with the Patriots and the Patriots putting him through an actual workout and not just visiting with him.
Well, nothing is surprising at all there, Chris. Patriots are just one of these bare-bones franchises. Show me what you got. We are going to try to get you, if you want to stay here, if you want to try to win for a Super Bowl, if you're going to know you're going to be in the postseason, sign under our terms, at our price. This is how they operate up here, Chris. You know that. Now, I think you made the point. I think the money is at the root of it. I mean, he's probably going to want between $5 and $10 million. And I still think he does have something left in the tank, and probably the Patriots found that out. Now it's kind of like a feeling out process. He's only seen a couple teams, Seattle and New England basically, and now they let him go. He has an idea what the New England scenery is like, how they win all the time up here, and if you want to be a part of that, or do you want to make those extra few $1 million maybe in some place that might not be as close to a Super Bowl. But nothing surprising there, Chris. I just think if he's looking for the money, he won't end up here. If he wants a championship and they can settle somewhere in the middle there, he'll come here.
And there you have it. That's Bob's take for this week here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Great points, Bob. All right, everyone, like we do every week here on Thursday Night Tailgate, we want to tell our military personnel listening in around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network, thank you. Thank you for doing what you do to protect all of us in our way of life. To our broader audience, we certainly thank you for being a part of the show as well, and we hope you'll join us in thanking our brave men and women who are out there serving in our military. If you happen to see one of them in your daily life, wherever you might be, grocery store, airport, restaurant, just out and about, please stop for a moment and tell those folks thank you. They are the ones who should be our true heroes. We also want to thank our veterans for your service and the sacrifices that you and your families have made for us over the years. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. Big thank you as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. We are so honored that Thursday Night Tailgate is a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. And veterans, please continue to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. What a great site with news and articles that are geared specifically towards our veterans out there. We're sure you're going to find them all both interesting and beneficial to you. Again, globalvoiceforveterans.org. TNT is sponsored by Kyvan Foods. NFL star Reggie Kelly brings the authentic flavors of traditional Southern cooking to market with his Kyvan Foods products. Made with the finest ingredients, Kyvan Foods invites you to appreciate the goodness of the exceptional flavors in their salsas, their sauces, their apple butter, and their other fine products. Make Kyvan items a part of your tailgating needs, right? We got baseball season out there. You can be tailgating for that or home gating when you're watching the games on TV. The taste of their products is unbelievable, folks. It's made available through Walmart.com and at select Kroger stores, or order it online through Amazon or Kyvan's website itself at Kyvan82.com. And Kyvan is spelled Kyvan. TNT is also sponsored by Dr. Peter Candelora and the great folks over at Coastal Orthopedics. Folks, if you're dealing with joint pain, wherever it is in your body, your knees, your shoulders, your hips, your other joints, please don't just live with it. Do what our friends at the Gridiron Greats do to get relief, and that's contact Dr. Peter Candelora at Coastal Orthopedics and Sports Medicine. Their number one goal is patient care and satisfaction. They can get you back to enjoying life. For more information or to schedule a consultation, give them a call at 888-825-1150. Again, 888-825-1150, or visit them online at bone-dr.com. And like I mentioned a moment ago, right, baseball season, it's underway now, opening day this week. If you love the game, you've got to go check out the Louisville Slugger Museum and Factory. They were inducted into the TripAdvisor Certificate of Excellence Hall of Fame. The museum, it's a very cool experience, folks, for everybody in the family, because you get to go walk their live production line and see some of the 1.8 million bats that they make each year, and they've been doing it now for 132 years. You hear me talk about this all the time here on the show, but don't miss the Bat Vault, where you can go in and actually hold for yourselves game-used bats from so many of the game's greatest legends. Guys like Hank Aaron, Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, my hero growing up, Willie Stargell. To find out more information about the museum and to book your visit, go to sluggermuseum.com. All right, now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is our good friend and the Dean of Atlanta Sports Talk Radio, Mr. Beau Bock. Beau has become a wonderful friend of the show. He's been the voice of Atlanta Sports Talk Radio since 1973. No one knows more about Atlanta sports or the suffering of the Atlanta sports fan than Beau does. We love having Beau as part of the show, and we're excited that he's back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Beau, Chris, and Bob, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hi, Beau.
Hey, Chris, thank you. Hey, Bobby, how you doing?
Good,
Chris, let me ask you a question. Did you just sign off the Armed Forces Network?
Did I sign off?
Listening? Yeah.
No, they're still listening.
It sounded like it was the end of their segment, was it?
No.
Because I was going to say, who you got me talking to? German U-boats? What are we going to do here? You know, I don't know what you got me here for. If I can't talk to men and women, I'm a Marine, for crying out loud.
That's right. No, we're out. The show's out over the Armed Forces Radio Network, so they're all listening in, my friend.
Wow. You got me like taxi cabs in Lenore, Pennsylvania, or something. I don't know.
So, Beau, we obviously want to get your thoughts on all things Atlanta sports, but we're 3 weeks away from the draft. The Falcons haven't done a lot this offseason with respect to bringing in free agents. So when you look at where the needs are, where do you got the Falcons going in the first couple of rounds? What are the biggest needs that they need to address at the top of the draft?
Well, we'd still like to get a pure pass rusher. We're set in the corners. We're set at safety. We'd like to get a bona fide, like a guy to take place, the type of guy who can play with his hand down, like Vic Beasley, that type of quickness. But Vic can't play with his hand in the dirt. So, that type of guy still what we need. We still need a right guard, and we still need to do some work with Matthews at left tackle because he keeps getting bull rushed. He sets up too high, and it's a leverage thing, and they keep bringing him back to Matt Ryan. So
when we look at,
so we're really in a good position because when you look at what really do we need to get, we're still in developmental stage. This town drives me crazy in this lack of media in this town, where nobody says anything, nobody investigates anything, everybody takes the status quo, and whatever's going to be is going to be. And I want to know is why is our town allowed to just give raps to the Falcons for losing the Super Bowl when they weren't supposed to be there? It was supposed to be this year.
You brought that up.
It was supposed to be this.
You brought that up last time.
It happened in week 3 when this team all of a sudden came alive. Something happened that week in which they all came together, and that week we were different than we ever were before. The first 2 games of the year, we were last year. You couldn't have told the difference in our intensity and the way we moved and, the way we had continuity and came together. But in week 3 this year, boom, all of a sudden it clicked and we were off and running. We were the team to beat. Going into this year, we have to be the team to beat, and I don't know why this town is demonizing that and just giving, just lumping the loss on the Falcons like it's 1998 again, and that Dan Reeves lucky team got in. That Super Bowl appearance that we had in '98 was like Bobby winning a World Series. I mean, it's the law of averages when you really look at it that won the World Series.
So, Beau, let me ask you about on the offensive side. Mohamed Sanu is a guy. 59 catches last year, 653 yards, 4 touchdowns. 28 years old. By the time next season starts, are those production numbers what you expected from Sanu?
Yeah, more so because I heard so many negative comments about him coming in, about his hands and attitude. And the guy was, he was all Falcon. He was turned on, and he had great hands. And the beauty of him is when he caught it, when Roddy caught a pass for about the last 4 years, he couldn't go anywhere with it. In fact, it was rare when he caught a pass because he couldn't get open. He lost so much speed. But Sanu can take anything you give him and have a chance of taking it the distance. And that's a fact that we haven't had.
Bob, questions for Beau?
Hey, Beau, it's great to speak with you as usual. And Beau, you'll like this, Beau. I had on the TV side the other night, I had a chance to talk for the second time to the legendary Bob Wolf. And
okay.
Can you imagine, Bob, that he just turned 96, Beau? He just turned 96, is still active. He still offers some commentary on a few places up here, but is in a Guinness book now. I think his his 76-year broadcasting career is tops of anyone, and it's amazing that I talked to him. And I just wonder, do you think you're going to last till 96, Beau?
You know what? I'm hoping, Bobby. I really am hoping. You know, I really think that I'm a late bloomer type of guy, and I still have stuff to do. I'd love to clean up this town if I could. You know, just put us in the right direction, the right culture to be able to win competitively. You know, I mean, we just don't have that culture for whatever reason. I don't know why it was never instilled here by anybody. Why we live with Vince Dooley for 25 years? Why you got Bobby for 15 years? And it goes on and on. Why the Hawks didn't have a coach for 23 years? I mean, it goes on and on and on here.
It's a good point. Up here in the East, I was going to ask you, to tell you the truth, Beau, we hear nothing up here about the Atlanta Hawks, and I actually had to do some research on them earlier today, with Dwight Howard having his usual rebounding year, and that guy Schroeder's a good story, but you hear nothing about them. They're a 500 team, got a shot at the playoffs. Is there any juice down there for basketball?
Yeah, there is.
No.
But again, it's presented to the people, so, they got great crowds every night. They got Cleveland tonight. In fact, I was going to go down there until Chris called and told me I was going to be talking to the Swiss Army knife people, So I thought that was wonderful. But, there's a lot of juice for the Hawks. In fact, there's a little bit of controversy right now, which I think I might have started, and that is, why are we trying to get in the playoffs? Let's have one lottery ticket. If it's just one, it just means we have a chance. We get absolutely nothing out of being in the playoffs, except the opportunity when the playoffs are over to continue living in purgatory where we don't have a chance to move up. It's a precarious situation in the NBA. You got those middle-tier teams that just go through heck trying to get out of there. And that's where we are. We're ensconced right in the middle of that. So let's get in the lottery and let's get a chance to get something, to break out of this. That's what happened with Orlando. They had one ticket. And they got Penny Hardaway. And then they got Dwight when Dwight, I think, gave a crap. You should see him now. I mean, he's got all the numbers and everything, 14. He hasn't had an important rebound all year. I mean, rebound comes off, and, if we outbox that, other guys run away so he can get, his rebound numbers up. He's got hands of stone. This guy's like Durant.
Beau, I was speaking on the same sort of lines. I was interested to see the Braves went out and signed Ryan Howard to a minor league deal. What do you expect his role to be with the Braves this year?
When Freddie goes into that perennial slump that he gets, and he goes in the doldrums, and he needs shock therapy or at least a laser treatment. That's the only power. That's the only power factor we have, except for Kempton left. They might bring him up. He can still whack the ball. He can't run. He's, not good around the first sack, anymore, but he still can hit home runs. For a team, these guys have great expectations. I don't blame them. I like us. I think we're a heck of a team. We got Jaime Garcia throwing against Matt Harvey tonight, doing a great job. For the third night in a row, 1, 2, and 3 starters have thrown doozies. And then when you look at us, it's Kempton, Ciarte, and Nickajack. What's his name?
Who?
Oh God, our right fielder. Statsky.
Oh, Markakis?
Markakis, yeah.
Oh, mighty. Age has been the thief of my gifts. You know what I mean? And, sometimes, like, the name is right there. It's like sometimes it's my brother, and I don't even know what to call him. You know what I mean? It's terrible. And then you got Freddie, and you got Brandon Phillips, which really completes the infield. You got Dansby Swanson at short, and Adonis Garcia at third. What I don't like is Flowers behind the plate. I thought Recca was going to win that job, but they seem to like Flowers, even though they held him out last night because in the opener, Inciardi put the ball right on the money, runner coming from third, and Flowers caught the ball behind the plate and missed the tag.
Mm-hmm.
So they held him out last night just to, TJ Suzuki started behind the plate last night. But I really like us. We'll be competitive, and where we're coming from, that's all you want to be. You want to be moving forward, with all of our teams.
Curious to get your thoughts, Beau, on Bartolo Colon, a guy who's been in the league 20 years now, and he certainly isn't a guy who's in the greatest of shape, nor does he have much zip on his fastball. And it boggles my mind. How do you explain Bartolo Colon's continued success?
Changing speeds, being able to put the ball wherever he wants. He's got a great arm. Don't forget when he came up, he was a 96, 97, 98 guy. And last night, he hit 93 whenever he wanted to. This is the type of foxy guy he is. He'll throw his heater between 88 and 91, and then all of a sudden come 93. You know what I mean? That's how he gets to win. He's smarter than those guys. He keeps them totally off balance, and he has immaculate control. So and even with that little rotund body of his, he appears to be in great shape. Some guys are just like that.
And you mentioned Brandon Phillips a moment ago.
I think he ties that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, finish your thought.
I was going to say he ties that whole pitching staff together. He's the voice of reason and wisdom in the clubhouse. He'll bring Fultonevich along like crazy. We've got 3 good outings, and I expect Fultonevich tomorrow to give us a 4th good outing. I kind of like us.
And you mentioned Brandon Phillips a moment ago, a Stone Mountain native comes home via trade this offseason with the Reds. It's going to be 35, 36 in June. People believe, at some level that he's on the downside of his career. And I get that, for a 35 or 36-year-old second baseman. Sure. But he had 291 and 294 over the last couple of seasons with the Reds. So, he had a couple of errors, 14 errors last year. But if he could improve on that, I think the Braves can be very happy, right, with a second baseman into 290 plus.
Hey, Chris and Bobby, let me tell you something. He's going to be our team leader. Last night, every night I write a commentary and send it out via email to about 8,200 people. And I wrote about what we don't have is we don't have not a hoop and holler guy, but a leader, like a bona fide guy on the field who guys look at, who guys take their cue from, who guys get their energy from, who guys get their commitment from. And that's going to be Brandon Phillips. He's the only candidate. Freddie's not. Freddie's a brooder. Dansby's too young. Adonis Garcia doesn't speak the language. Kemp is reluctant to be that type of guy. Inciardi, again, he's not typically what you would call a leader. And Markakis in right definitely is a reclusive type of guy. He's not going to. So it's going to be Brandon Phillips. And if we make a move in this division, it will be because he ties it all together and gets us going.
Bob, one more for Beau before we let him go?
Yeah, Beau, just a little more on Atlanta. The thing that, might impress people is if their pitching stays halfway healthy, Beau. A guy like Colon and Dickey, these guys have been around.
Right. Yeah,
and they kind of know how to last throughout the year. Tehran's been pretty steady. I mean, if these,
right.
it's a war of attrition right to the end.
Right.
But if these guys are halfway healthy come September, again, they're not going to win the division, but they may shock people just because they kind of keep it together the whole year. Nobody's expecting much, but they're that team. And every year there's that one or two teams that aren't supposed to be highly touted, but kind of break through, and this would be the time for them to do it. I
think you're right, Bobby. In fact, I see them as a legitimate wild card candidate. They're that team that's lying in wait, kind of like in the middle of everybody's opinion, and they're not getting much juice. But this is a team for all the reasons I just mentioned, those guys, and how when you think about each one of them is probably underrated, you can find a better player at every position anywhere in the league. But collectively, I don't think anybody has our balance. I think we are going to be a surprise, and I think we're definitely going to be in the wild card until until it's over.
Beau, before we let you go, and you mentioned this a moment ago, but your daily newsletter, talk about how our listeners can sign up for that and how they can follow you on social media as well.
Yeah, well, if they'd like to, know what's going on in this town, it really is the only candid commentary that's coming out of here. And if you just email me your email address, it's Bock, BeauBock @gmail.com. On Twitter, it's bbock790, and that's about what I got.
That's great. Beau, thanks for skipping the Hawks game to come and hang out with us for a little while. It's always a great.
You're welcome.
It's always a great time being with you.
I'm switching back and forth between the Braves and the Hawks, so I'm fine.
There you go.
I'll see you guys.
Beau,
be good. And next time,
care,
will you please tell our military to hang on? I mean, it's a terrible insult to me.
They're still there, Beau. I promise they heard every word.
Oh, thank God. Thank God. Semper Fi, men.
Take care, Beau.
And Oscar de la Renta to you too.
Thank you, Beau. Take care, my friend.
See ya.
That is the Dean of Atlanta Sports Talk Radio, Mr. Beau Bock. Always a fun, adventurous time, Bob, when we get to spend a little bit of time with Beau Bock.
Entertaining, good friend, but knows Atlanta sports. I just love his take. He wants that town to do good, and a lot of the people down there are kind of sedate, but not Beau. He's going to keep that town on its toes, Chris.
That's exactly right. Absolutely. All right, we've got our next guest, Tony Collins, hanging on the line. We'll get to Tony on the other side of this station identification.
This is Christine Lisi, and you're listening to Thursday Night Tailgate, where NFL stars go to tell their stories with Chris Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
And now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is our good friend and former Patriots Pro Bowl running back, Tony Collins. Hey, Tony, how are you this week, my friend?
Hi, Tony.
I am doing fantastic. How you doing, guys?
Oh, really well. Thank you, Tony. So, Tony, Bob and I were talking at the top of the show about the Patriots not only bringing in Adrian Peterson for a visit this week, but also kind of putting him through a tryout or a test, if you will, to see what he's got left and what he can bring still to the Patriots or any team obviously that ends up signing him. They didn't sign him, not yet anyway, and he's off going to meet with the Saints next. Do you think that they have genuine interest in AP? Because I think they really like to have a power running back. They've had it the last several years with LeGarrette Blount, who also remains unsigned. But do you think AP is a guy that they've got genuine interest in, or do you think they just sort of kick the tires?
You just never know with the Patriots, man. You kind of wonder why would they even do something like that if they're not interested in him. But I think they're interested. I think one of the things that if Adrian is really serious about getting to the Super Bowl, I mean that's the only thing that left on his resume that he needs is to a chance to play in the Super Bowl. I mean, the money thing is going to be the big issue with New England. New England don't like paying a whole lot of money to guys, especially especially running backs. So I think if they can find an avenue or come to some type of agreement, maybe. Now, I don't know how Adrian's ego is, not making as much money as he usually makes. But if he was smart, I would do something like that. But you just never know with New England, man, because their running backs is a running back by committee, and I think Adrian would fit very well in that offense, though.
And Tony, wrestling fans got treated to Gronk making an appearance at WrestleMania last weekend. He got involved in a battle royal match. He speared a guy, that had come out and threw a drink on him. So that sort of whole thing was scripted up. But Tony, we haven't seen Gronk in a game since he injured his back about 4 months ago, and I'm not sure this kind of action is what Robert Kraft or Bill Belichick had in mind for Gronk over the off season. But do you think, is it Gronk being Gronk? Do you think they just sort of shake their heads at this point and, just say, hey, that's just who Gronk is? Or do you think, Belichick might be losing his patience a little bit with Gronk's extracurricular activities in the off season?
I don't think so. I think, they've accepted Gronk. I mean, he's one of the top tight ends in the league, a whole lot of talent. But he does some crazy things off the field. I think the Patriots have accepted him and let him do his thing. He's never been in any trouble or anything like that. So as long as he's not getting any trouble, I think the Patriots can put up with him. Hopefully, he'll stay healthy enough to play a few more games, a few more years. Because with that back issue, especially being the tight end and all the hits that he's taken. It's not good. Any football player will let you know when you get a back injury and you're playing a game like football, man, your days are numbered. And so I think with Gronk, he's going to do his thing. He's a lot of fun. But the only thing, the thing about that, he has a lot of fun off the field, but he kind of backs it up when he gets on the field and he's healthy and he's played. So. I think the Patriots are just accepting Gronk for who Gronk is.
Bob, questions for Tony?
Yeah, Tony, back to Peterson just for one moment, Tony. I mean, I think he is in a position now, Tony, he's in the twilight of the career, but he's kind of wrestling with a couple things, Tony. He wants to still make some good money while he has that talent, but then he probably... I would assume that he's in the market to win a championship. Do you think he's wrestling, Tony, with maybe something from his agent that he doesn't want to undersell him stuff? I mean, how much input does this guy have into where he ends up?
I mean, I think he has a lot of input into where he ends up at. And like I said, if Adrian if he's smart, man, that would be an ideal situation for a running back at the end of his career to play on a great team like the Patriots and get a chance, an opportunity. And what other team would you go to with the best opportunity to make it to a Super Bowl? And that's the Patriots. So I think it's really all on Adrian. You have an agent; he'll advise you on different things, but it comes down to your choice. I mean, you actually say, yeah, I'll take this. I'll take this. I'll take this money. I'll take a pay cut. I'll do this. I'll do that. So I think he has full control of what he wants to do and how he wants to do it.
Hey, Tony, I saw a picture you posted this week of you talking to a crowd of kids and people in general, and I know you're in your element. What are some of the topics you're been kind of running into these days, and are you still kind of spreading the same message out there?
We're spreading the same message. One of the biggest things now is choices, and that's one of the keys. I have a program called the Right Choice Program, and we just one of the things I truly believe that as a kid coming up, the choices that you make as far as the college that you choose, the people that you hang around with. And those type of things that we're trying to focus on with the kids, making good choices and not and the thing about choices is you think you can make making a choice of getting in a car, and that's one of the things I talk to the kids about. you get in the car and somebody's been drinking and you make a choice to get in. You're not drinking, but you just need a ride home. You really got to think this thing through. And you getting in a car with somebody that you know has been drinking is not a good choice. So we're trying to make these kids understand understand that one bad choice that you can make, man, could change your whole life. And that's one of the things that we're trying to make sure these kids don't do is make that one bad choice that can absolutely change their whole life, and maybe the last choice they make if it's a detrimental choice. So that's what we're focused on a lot. Of course, with the drugs and being a kid of character, that's what we're trying to force down these kids, man. And it's working. They're catching on. And as I tell my story, they can see, some of the good choices I made coming up as a kid, and some of the bad choices I made when I got into the league, and how that whole situation changed my life because of the choices that I was making.
And Tony, just to take that, a step further, because you've talked about this, many times on the show, and I think just a couple of weeks ago you talked about how you shouldn't even really be here right now. You probably should have died. And when you look at where you're at now and the messages that you're delivering to kids, like you mentioned a moment ago, or to other business groups and people that you get the opportunity to speak with, do you view, and tell them that, those trials and your role now, and as, and the platform that, being a player in the NFL has given to you, is that something that you try to portray to them as, hey, here's what I went through, right? And here's how I made it through those trials, and here I am today, right? So you can come back. You can come back from a lot of things, right? Athletes come back from injuries, but athletes can come back from that. People in everyday walks of life can come back from that and be successful because, boom, here I am.
Absolutely, man, Chris. It's also, to me, it's like a really honor to be able to stand in front of these kids because, like you said, I really shouldn't be alive right now. And I really believe that God has given me a second, third, maybe fourth, fifth chance. And so it's like a duty to me that I something that I know I need to do, and something that I love doing anyway, because of the opportunity that I got to come back, the opportunity I got to change my life over again for the better. And so it's just like almost an obligation to me to try to help as many kids as possible. Understanding that, I've gone through the bad stuff. So I've gone through it, and so this is what you do, not so you don't have to go through it. And if you do so happen to go through it, this is how you get out of it. And so I try to, my life is you get them from both ends as far as, not making the mistake of a life-changing mistake. But if you do make that life-changing mistake, this is what you need to do to get back on track. And so it's just a complete honor for me to be able, especially be able to get in front of a group of kids and share my life with them, and really just tell them all the bad stuff. And a lot of times, when I know when I first started speaking and I would tell my story, I felt so bad telling these kids all these bad things that I did, but I understand now that it's like this is what I'm supposed to do. Let these kids know the good, bad, and the ugly, the things that I've gone through, so they won't have to go through the same thing.
And Tony, one more before we let you go, but when you end your speech or your talk with whichever audience you're speaking with, kind of to Bob's point a few moments ago, when that's over and people are milling around, what do people come over and ask you about? I have to imagine whether it's kids or parents or business people, they want to have a moment with you and pull you aside and say, hey, what about this or that? What do they talk to you about?
It's so many things, man. I have kids come up to me that you really don't expect. Big football players. I had a football player. I think it was last year. Come up to me afterwards, and he wanted to talk in private, and he starts crying because this is some of the things that that I shared with him that he's going through right now. And this is a high school kid, and so it just keeps going. I have parents come up to me at different times and let me know that they're so thankful for me to share my story and telling it all. So because I get so many of them, man. And that's why it's so rewarding for me, because I know that I'm doing the right thing. I know that I'm helping some people, I'm helping some kids, and I have a little fan club, and a lot of kids they write letters, and parents write letters, and I get a bunch of mail, and it's just really encouraging for me, because it's something that I never thought I would ever do, because I was never a big speaker when I was playing. I was never that rah guy, but now I know that through my experiences that I have to talk, I have to tell my story, I have to give back and help as many people as possible.
And to that end, speaking about helping kids, Tony, before we let you go, remind everyone about the great things you're doing to help kids get to college.
TonyCollinsFoundation.com and TonyCollinsSpeaks.com. We're helping as many kids as possible, giving out scholarships to kids going off to school. Go to the website, make a donation. Every donation that you make will be helping a kid get to college.
There you go. Tony, thank you so much for being a part of the show again this week. Pardon me. Take care, and Bob and I look forward to catching up with you again same time next week, my friend.
Yes, sir. We'll be talking to you guys soon.
Take care.
Take care, Tony. That is former Patriots running back Tony Collins. And you know what, Bob? The great work that Tony is doing now in the speaking engagements and the message that he shares and all of that sort of thing. And you said this many times, right? It's 100 times more important, right, than his playing career. Anything he did at East Carolina or he did with the Patriots or that sort of thing. The opportunity to speak to kids and to help them, and like he talked about the young man that pulled him aside in private, those things are absolutely unbelievable, and God bless Tony for doing it.
Hey, he's in his element, Chris. Like I said, you saw the picture, and he looked like he's in pure joy. And a lot of guys, they leave all their joy on the football field. Tony just started the joy when he retired. So we're so happy for him and honored to speak with him weekly. That's
right. All right, we've got our next guest, Scott Lockwood, hanging on the line. We'll get to Scott on the other side of this station identification.
This is Reggie Kelly, former Cincinnati Bengals and Atlanta Falcons tight end, and you're listening to TNT, Thursday Night Tailgate. Brace yourself for the explosion.
And now back with us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is Scott Lockwood. Let me remind you about Scott's background. He is from Los Angeles, California, played his college ball at USC, where he was a two-time All-Pac-12 running back. Scott was an 8th-round draft pick in 1992, picked by the New England Patriots, and he played in the NFL with the Patriots, Lions, and Seahawks. And we are honored to have him back with us again tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Scott, Chris, and Bob here. Thanks for coming back on the show.
Hey, Scott.
Hey guys, how you doing? Appreciate it. Thanks for having me again. It's been a while, but glad to be able to catch up.
Thanks.
And Scott, before we get into all the football stuff, I wanted to make sure you had some time here to talk about, because you've been a wonderful supporter of the Kevin Turner Foundation. An organization and a man who is very near and dear to our hearts. And you've got an event coming up to help raise some money for the foundation and to help cure ALS. So talk about the event you've got coming up in the not too distant future.
Yeah, so this is actually the second round of the Ride for Kevin 2.0. It's part of the Triple Bypass, which is a bike ride. I'm not going to call it a race, because races, there's potentially a winner and a loser. This is just about trying to finish the ride. It's a 120-mile one-day bike ride from Evergreen, Colorado to Avon, Colorado. So it's essentially over 3 of the highest bikeable peaks in Colorado, midsummer, so right in the middle of July. There's roughly 3,500 riders, and we have a team, KTF, Kevin Turner Foundation, that I put together a couple of years ago, and we just keep adding a number of riders. it's been Jeffrey Smith and Mark Donahue. Mark played tackle at Michigan, and I think was just inducted to the Michigan Hall of Fame at the university this last year. We were the first kind of 3 riders that raised some money a couple of years ago, and this past year we added another dozen riders, so there's 15 of us, and this year we're going to be somewhere close to 15 to 20, and just going out raising sponsorships from local groups and that want to help give back and support the team and the ride, and ultimately it all goes back to the Kevin Turner Foundation and Tamara Allen, who's been running the foundation for Kevin for a number of years, and so it's all about us trying to raise as much money as we can to raise awareness, and ultimately goes to support the ALF Foundation and help hopefully able to find a cure someday for this terrible disease.
And Scott, mention again, when is the date of the ride?
So the ride, if anyone wants to join, is July 8th, Saturday, July 8th. Got to start training now because only got a few months left to be able to push yourselves up 10,000 feet of vertical gain in 120 miles. So it's definitely it's not a fun ride. It's absolutely one of the most challenging things I've ever done, and I've been training hard to get ready for the ride again this year. So they call it the triple bypass for a couple of reasons. There's typically not all the folks make it, and there's the incredible peaks that you go over. It's a great ride. There's lots of different organizations trying to support different causes, and we're fortunate enough to be able to do this in Kevin's honor again.
And for folks that can't do the ride, is there a way for them to donate or contribute or that sort of thing online as well?
Yeah, so you can either go to the Kevin Turner Foundation website. He's got a big Facebook page and following. You can also go to CrowdRise, and under CrowdRise, which is our kind of funding platform page, it's Ride for Kevin 2.0. I can try and set up a link and send it to you guys afterwards if we can post that somewhere. But yeah, that would be be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do that, Scott. And Scott, when we've talked in the past, you've told us about the issues that you had with concussions, and you had 6 going back to your days playing in high school, and you've had different brain scan tests, along with several other of the alumni players, different Hall of Famers and All-Pros. But talk to us about that and your thoughts on what's being done now to help improve player safety. Is it enough?
Guys, this is so ironic. I mean, tomorrow, 8 a.m., I'm working with a group called Sarascan, based in Centennial, Colorado, so South Denver, and they have come sort of aligned with the Tug McGraw Foundation to do they call it a test or a study. So they've taken 30 former NFL players and 30 veterans, and they're doing brain scan, imaging, testing, all the tests that you would do to determine different levels of concussion or head trauma. So tomorrow is it's been a 9-month process. Tomorrow is my last neuropsych test that I have to go through. So it's a 3-hour test and questions, and but they're trying to develop a infrared helmet that penetrates the skull and the brain matter to help repair damaged neurons and tissue and create new blood flow to areas of the brain that haven't had flow or been limited because of the bruising or the concussions. So yeah, it's absolutely important to me to, obviously, for my own well-being, my family's future, but also to hopefully prevent additional head trauma and concussions for younger players coming up.
Bob, questions for Scott?
Sure, Scott. I wanted to ask you about your early days, your upbringing, and what got you to USC. I mean, so many times, Scott, we see people that grow up in the big cities such as Los Angeles, due to various things, Scott, they just kind of lose their focus or lose track or just get in with the wrong crowd. Was it family that did it for you? What made it to the point where you were able to stay on a straight path in order to get to USC and ultimately the NFL?
Yeah, that's a great question. So my upbringing, I grew up in Burbank, California, and my father had coached at Burbank High School and Blair High School for a number of years, and I grew up as a kid, around football and being at football practice at an early age, and he played at USC and had a chance to go to Colorado, come back, or actually he went to high school in Burbank, got a scholarship to Colorado. They got put on probation in 1960. He transferred back to SC and finished at SC in 64. So part of the connection to us leaving LA was to get out of LA and create a better life and potential future for me and the rest of my siblings. So we moved to Boulder, Colorado when I was 10, and obviously I still had that association with USC and LA, and all my grandparents and family were still back in California. So when I decided to go back to USC to school, it was a pretty easy transition for me. But just staying on the right path, doing the right things, through high school. It wasn't. I didn't drink. I didn't party. I was the guy who was, probably asleep if it wasn't football season. I was asleep on a Friday night at 8 or 9, and always involved in weekend sports and track and basketball and just different things that kept me, busy. And I'm actually kind of, probably falling in the same path as my parents, but I'm doing the same thing with my kids, even though they're, 8, 6, and 3, just trying to keep them busy and give them lots of different kind of social interactions and different sports and activities being involved with all the time.
And Scott, when it came time for the 1992 draft, when you play for a team and a quote-unquote football factory like USC, it must be something on a day like that. I just wanted to get your expectations that day and your reaction when you find out the Patriots ultimately took you.
Yeah, that's so my senior year at SC was a difficult time for me. I had a really good junior year, and it was all Pac-10 at the time, and came back my senior year. I had surgery on my knee after the second game. I had a staph infection in my right knee and had surgery, and so I missed the entire season. And at the time they were thinking about amputation from the knee down, and so focus on football wasn't. I didn't have any focus on football for, 3 months. I was trying to recover from knee surgery and literally stay alive. So to come back, and have the chance to get drafted, I didn't care that it didn't matter to me if it was, 3rd round or 12th round or 8th round. I just wanted a chance to play and continue playing football. And it's an interesting sport and, dynamic. There's sometimes that I wish that, football, maybe wasn't an option. I would have chance to at least focus on academics more or, after, college, maybe go to grad school or do something different. It was just when you're wrapped up in college sports and in pro sports, it's literally, for the college kids now, it's a 40 to 60 hour a week full-time job. And, I think a lot of people miss that part. So there's different things that, I'm glad they worked out the way they did. Met a lot of great people and experiences and continue to have that sort of, I guess, that same drive and mentality in what I do today. So it's taught me, football has taught me a lot and opened up a lot of doors for me that it probably wouldn't have if I hadn't played. But likewise, I might be doing something different today if I didn't play football. So it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And Scott, your rookie season with the Patriots, they certainly weren't the Patriots then that we think about the Patriots now. You had Dick McPherson was your head coach. He only lasted a couple of seasons. Bill Parcells would come over and take over the next year, but you guys were 2-14. But I'm real curious. In week 16, you got your opportunity to show what you could do in a game against the Dolphins. You had 30 carries, 123 yards. You had 4 receptions for 89 yards in that game. Talk to us. What was it like getting your opportunity to really show what you could do?
Yeah, that was it's funny because I still talk to people today. People stop me at the gym or somewhere and say, "Oh, yeah, I used to play with the Patriots," and I'm like, "Well, I played with the old Patriots." And I like to think that we're probably the reason why they're so successful now. Because had we not gone 2-14, had we maybe won the last game against Miami, we would have had the second pick, and we may have not been able to pick Drew Bledsoe in the first round for the first pick. So because we lost that game, essentially we had the first pick, which was Bledsoe, which ultimately was the catalyst for changing things from that point on. And after Coach McPherson was let go after that season, and Bill Parcells came in, that was the monumental change right there. Because I believe, maybe 5 years after that, there was of the 53-man roster, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 players left from that 92 team that were on that same Super Bowl team 5 or 6 years later. So had we not been, had we won the last game, the Patriots may or may not be the same team today without Bledsoe or Parcells together.
Right.
So I'd like to take a lot of the credit for that.
There you go. Good for you. And Scott, the thing that boggles my mind is, you played so well in that game, and I know, Parcells comes in the next year, and maybe he has a different scheme or a different way of looking at things, but you didn't get much of a look that next year with Parcells. Any idea why?
So it's interesting that the preseason, had a good preseason. I had a great, felt like I had a really good camp. It was myself and I think John Vaughn and Leonard Russell were the 3 tailbacks. They brought in a rookie, Corey Kroom, who was also a great back. The Thursday practice before our first opening game, I think against the Chargers, we used to practice on this indoor turf field. This is before the Patriots had a lot of money, or at least invested a lot of money in their facilities. And we used to practice on an indoor field, and it was a half field of turf. Well, this field is probably 20 years old, and the turf used to buckle up. So if you would run in cuts, the whole turf would buckle and slide. I pulled my groin. I actually tore my pectineal tendon in the practice on a Thursday before our first opening game on Sunday.
Wow.
So I missed that game. They let me go 2 weeks after that. So it's the way it works out is essentially I had to file a grievance against them because I was damaged and hurt and couldn't play, couldn't sign, couldn't pass a physical with anyone else. And I had to end up suing them, it was 4 years later. And I had to file a grievance and sue them to get paid for a portion of that season, which, the NFL is people, it looks different on Sundays, and it's the glamour and the lights and the cheerleaders and the halftime, but sort of the grind of the business of the NFL, a lot of people miss what that looks like. So, yeah, I had a great rookie season. The last game, I was really excited. I had a great camp, and then get hurt. The next guy is up. So, it's definitely a business that is unlike anything else.
Bob, more for Scott?
Yeah, Scott, I was just wondering if you stay on top of the Patriots, what they're doing these days. Are you surprised or just amazed at the rest of us here in New England, how they run the business up here and keep winning? And tell us about your other viewing habits of sports.
Yeah, so honestly, I love college football. I've been I'm a diehard Trojan fan, but I love watching college football. And to me, I still enjoy the NFL. I love watching the Super Bowl, and I believe that's probably the first game all season that I watch from beginning to end. My life right now is a little bit different, wrapped up with 3 young boys and activities all the time. It's hard to focus on what's happening, but I'm still a diehard Pats fan. Boston fan in general, and the success that they've had, obviously, with Tom Brady and Belichick and the organization itself knows how to win, and I think that the system, obviously has proven itself time and time again, and they just continue to do the same things. They don't move out of line and don't make bad decisions. And I think it comes from the top down, the organization and obviously the facilities too. It's just pretty incredible, run for them. Hopefully they continue to have success, when Tom decides to move on and do, modeling or something different. Who knows what's going to happen, but, they've had an incredible run for, at least 2 decades now.
Got just a couple more before we let you go. And as you talk about, your love for USC, as I was kind of looking back over, your time there, curious to get your thoughts. Your freshman year in 1988, you were in a backfield that featured, Rodney Peete at quarterback. You had Ricky Irvins, Leroy Holt, and Aaron Emanuel, along with yourself. In that backfield, you guys rushed for over 2,000 yards. Talk about the success you guys had running the football as a group.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't know whoever coined the phrase tailback by committee, but it was certainly that. There was, I think all 4 of us, maybe my freshman year, I think we all, rushed for at least 500 yards. There wasn't a feature back, and maybe that was a product of the system at the time, just because no one could stay healthy enough to, carry the ball 30 times a game. And, I think that the system now and the way the game is played is a little bit different, and also the way they practice. Back then, there's probably a lot of guys that are, if they're listening, they remember 20 days of full contact spring ball, and they just don't do that anymore. We were, spring football wasn't something that you look forward to. And with Larry Smith as the head coach, who's a Michigan guy, and sort of the old school mentality, we would look forward to Saturdays because it would be a break from, the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday full pad, one-on-one, goal line, 20 plays, scrimmage type practices that we had. And, the one reason I think we were, so good at the time, not only we had, some really, really good recruits coming in, and lots of different, All-Americans and great, players that are, still recognized, Willie McGinnis and Tony Vaselli and Pat Harlow. Pat was, I think, a first-round pick at New England, as well as Willie. But, those guys would go against each other every day in practice. So when Tony Vaselli is playing right tackle or left tackle, and Willie McGinnis is the right rush end, you ultimately have to have, one of those guys is going to be fortunate enough to be extremely good, and it worked out for both of them. But those were definitely fun times.
And that season, you guys, you were 10-0 going into the last regular season game against number 1 Notre Dame, and arguably your biggest rival. But you guys were coming off of a big win over UCLA, who was ranked 6th at the time, and you guys ended up coming up short against Notre Dame 27-10. Was it a letdown following that big win over UCLA to get yourselves back up for the Notre Dame game, or was it just one of those things where Notre Dame just was the better team that day?
Oh gosh, I think good combination of both. I think the week before we beat UCLA on what they call, I think they still call it the catch. Eric Affolter, Rodney Pete to Eric Affolter on a 40-yard touchdown pass in the corner of the end zone, and today with instant replay, UCLA guys would say that it's not a catch, and SC guys would say it still is a catch. But it was, huge two back-to-back emotional games where you have to get up for both. Obviously, Notre Dame at that time with, oh my gosh, Holtz and Bettis and Rice and Ricky Waters. I mean, Rocket Ishmael talked about, Mike Stonebreaker on defense and Ned Bolkar, Chris Sorich. Those guys were loaded all over the field, and they were absolutely probably the better team. They deserved everything, and credit to those guys. But I prefer to focus on how the game ended up this last year. So it was things are the tide has turned a little bit since then.
And to finish out that season, you guys ended up playing Michigan in the Rose Bowl, and unfortunately that game didn't go your way either. But how difficult is it trying to get back up mentally? I mean, you've had a disappointing loss to Notre Dame, and now you've got 5 weeks to kind of deal with that, and then you got to try to get yourselves back up mentally to play Michigan in the Rose Bowl. Is it difficult to do that, or is it, hey, it's Michigan, it's the Rose Bowl, of course we're going to get it, we're up for that?
Yeah, no, I think, it's Michigan, it's the Rose Bowl. I mean, it's the platform, that stage that everyone dreams of playing on, and, like it is today, it's the granddaddy of them all, and absolutely, incredible environment with the 110,000 people. But that Michigan team was extremely good as well, and I don't think it has anything to do with maybe the time off or the better team. The better team usually wins, unless there's some dramatic fluke or something something extremely odd happens. But it's always a challenge. You got UCLA one week and Notre Dame the next, and then you play Michigan, a few weeks after that.
So, Scott, what are you doing now? Let our listeners know what you're doing now.
I work in hotel development. So I work for a company based out of Maryland, Choice Hotels International. I develop all their upscale branded hotels on the West Coast. So from the Rocky Mountains west, so Seattle to San Diego, looking for hotel development sites and kind of putting the capital stack together and the programming, and been doing that for the last 5 years or so.
Scott, before we let you go, remind our listeners one more time about the Ride for ALS and how they can get involved, and then also stay up to date with what you're doing on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to help donate or sponsor the Human Riders for the Kevin Turner Ride for Kevin 2.0, you can go to CrowdRise funding page, which is, you'll find it under Ride for Kevin 2.0, or you can go to the Kevin Turner Foundation website and also donate that way. We appreciate your help and support and generosity.
Great stuff, Scott. Thank you for what you're doing, and please get us the link and that sort of thing, because we want to make sure that we're out there letting people know about it and getting the information in the hands of people that want to get involved. But thank you for what you're doing, and thanks
Absolutely.
for coming back on the show tonight. It's been great to have you.
All right, Bob and Chris, appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care, Scott. All the best to you and your family, my friend.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
That is former USC and New England Patriots running back Scott Lockwood, and Bob, obviously the what they're doing for the Kevin Turner Foundation is very near and dear to our hearts, and trying to raise money to fight and hopefully find a cure for ALS. And it certainly doesn't sound like this is an easy ride for these guys. So kudos to them for not only doing what they're doing to raise the money, but putting themselves through what sounds like a very difficult bike ride.
Yeah, it just sounds like it's nothing for the faint of heart. And a guy like Lockwood, that's been in the trenches, Chris. He knows what it takes. But what's such a great cause, as you said, so dear to our hearts, and for a guy to keep his memory alive and know it's important like that, we give Scott a lot of kudos for doing what he does. Absolutely,
we do. All right, Bob and I will be back on the other side of these words from our friends over at Coastal Orthopedics and Kyvan Foods.
Are you suffering from ongoing pain from athletic injuries in your knees, shoulders, or hips? Tired of living your life with an old injury that just won't go away? If you answered yes to either of these questions, we can help. Dr. Peter Candelora and his experienced staff of medical professionals will get you back on the road to recovery. Their state-of-the-art facility and new medical technology will ensure you'll be enjoying life again in no time. Since 1991, Dr. Candelora has been specializing in joint replacement, athletic injuries, and general orthopedics. Visit us on the web at athleteinjuries.com or call our office at 888-825-1150. That is 888-825-1150. We're proud sponsors of the Gridiron Greats Assistance Fund.
Add great flavor to your next tailgate party with Kyvan Salsas. Former NFL tight end Reggie Kelly created these salsas for dipping chips and much more. In hot and mild flavors, Kyvan Salsas make a great marinade. They are terrific in meatloaf and are super toppers for everything from baked potatoes to scrambled eggs. It's a great ingredient to enjoy in a variety of family favorite meals. And some people say Kyvan Salsa is a meal to itself. With all the possibilities, Kyvan is truly salsa with soul. Kyvan salsas are also made from natural ingredients, and they are preservative-free. So look for Kyvan, that's K-Y-V-A-N, at area Walmart stores or online. Click on the Kyvan logo on our website to check retail and online locations. More information at Kyvan82.com.
Hey, welcome back. This is Todd Washington, two-time Super Bowl champ, offensive line coach for the Baltimore Ravens, and you are listening to Thursday Night Tailgate with my boys Chris-Mascaro and Bob-Lazzari on the Armed Forces Radio Network. Go get them, guys.
Hey, we're back here on Thursday Night Tailgate, and it looks like we're not going to have the opportunity to speak with Paul Alexander tonight, so we hope everything is going well for Paul, and we'll catch up with him another time. As we wait for our next guest, Dante Jones, to join us. Bob, I wanted to get your thoughts on a couple of things on the baseball side. We talked a little bit of baseball with Beau Bock earlier tonight, but get your thoughts on our favorite team, the Boston Red Sox, and the Sox off to a nice start, Bob, with wins from Porcello and Chris Sale. Your thoughts so far on what you've seen from the Red Sox through the first two games?
Oh, it was the best start that anybody could imagine, Chris. I mean, think about what happened. You had a newcomer like Chris Sale. Didn't seem at all like Chris. He was, and I don't think too many people thought he would be overcome with Boston or anything like that. Looked comfortable. The team looks like it has good chemistry, Chris. People were thinking, without Big Papi, how is it going to shake out? How does a guy like Pablo Sandoval come back? I mean, he's looked okay so far, Chris. I mean, it's again, things have started really well. We know, having covered that team for a long time, how long the season can be. And but there's excitement there, Chris. You have some good young players, some good veterans. Benintendi is everyone's pick for the Rookie of the Year. He's looked good. On paper, again, you and I know it's going to come down to how healthy these pitchers are come October. I mean, they're looking great right now. I think Farrell's biggest challenge is to try to keep some of these innings down, maybe go to a six-man rotation if you can. see how Stephen Wright comes back tomorrow, Chris. That'll be important. He doesn't throw hard, but if he's healthy, he'll be able to eat a lot of innings up this year. I think he's key. That Stephen Wright. People aren't talking much about him, but if you can get between 152 innings out of that guy, it makes the whole thing a little easier for everyone else. As you and I know, Porcello and Price had nothing left come October 1st, as good as Porcello was last year. So they're going to be their whole thing, and that's what's great about baseball in general. Never mind the Red Sox, Chris. It's a war of attrition. It's who's standing at the end. It's a great sport to watch. The 162 thing. It's a soap opera every day, and it's great to watch. So, but it's exciting here in New England. I know the Red Sox nation right now, very excited for what they're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, last night's game, very exciting, right? With a walk-off home run, Sandy Leon hits a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 12th to get them out of there with a win. But, Sale goes 7 innings, 104 pitches, Bob, as you talked about, guys and what they have left and that sort of thing. Did it raise an eyebrow at all that they let Sale go 7 and throw 104 pitches?
Well, he wants the ball, Chris. It's one of those things where most of you're right. I mean, I looked at most of the stud pitchers throughout the league in their first start threw between 80 and 90 pitches at the most, maybe 6 or 7 innings depending how things were going. To let him air it out like that, but he was one of those guys that was really admitted. I kind of fixed things that I had to do in spring training. I got the kinks out and let me go. He's one of these guys that just wants the ball, Chris. So I think getting 7 out of him was a good thing. And, he might have a little extra rest at the beginning of the season anyway. So I think it was good. I think he's going to be the stud that people thought he was. I expect him to be one of the top Cy Young Award candidates this year. When you have an offense like that, some good chemistry, and the team is going to win. So I think his attitude is going to be good. But, a little surprised he did pitch that much, but knowing his mentality, it's exactly what he wanted to do.
And it's got to be a good sign, Bob. One of the things that they struggled with, Craig Kimbrell struggled with last year was, pretty solid in save situations, not so much in non-save situations, but he comes in last night in a non-save situation just to continue to hold the fort down. He goes an inning, doesn't give up a hit, and then Joe Kelly comes in and goes 2 innings and is able to only give up 1 hit and get the win. So both of those have got to be pretty good signs.
Huge, Chris, exactly. Kimbrell, that's always been, everybody knows the guy can throw 100 miles per hour, but can he do it in the clutch? Can he throw strikes when he really needs to? And same with Kelly, another guy that can throw the ball through the wall. And but Kelly, at this point in the Red Sox season right now, Chris, is key because of the injury to Thornburg. Thornburg is I tell you, if he's healthy, he is going to help this team more than any acquisition for sure. But a guy like Kelly, if he could be, my goodness, even your 6th inning pitcher, Chris, to throw like he does, if he can find the plate, he can be unhittable at times. He just has to fit into some groove now. I don't know what that's going to be. Could it be long relief? Could it be innings eater? Could it be garbage time? I don't know yet. But if he pitches like he did the other night, that's exciting news. But, yeah, you're right. Kimbrell's got to prove to me, as good as his stats look, he's got to prove to me that he could throw strikes in the clutch.
And, Bob, you sort of mentioned it a moment ago, Pablo Sandoval, a guy now, getting the start back at third base and getting an opportunity to rejuvenate his career. I think, not only from a hitting perspective where we were, wondering what we would see out of him, but also as a fielder. Now, he certainly dropped a lot of weight, which is, great, but 2 errors in 2 games, Bob, is that a concern? How long do you go with a Pablo Sandoval? He's only had 1 hit so far, 1 for 8. How long do you go with a Pablo Sandoval and give him the opportunity to continue to be the everyday third baseman if the batting average doesn't come up and the errors continue?
You know how it works in Boston, Chris. You don't go too long. The pressure's going to come on this guy. I mean, if you don't produce here, it's not going to be pretty. And this is a guy you and I have talked ad nauseum over the last few years about how a guy like him still has to prove that he could be a better than average everyday player and not just a postseason type player. I think a lot of the success, and he got that contract because of what he's done in the postseason. You look at his kind of regular season stats, and they're kind of generic. So he's got to prove to people, number one, that he can stay in shape and avoid the team buffets, as friends of us have told us, and also that he can produce on a regular basis and not just in the postseason. They're going to need him to be consistent, not for weeks in October. I mean, they're going to need him during the year, and if the fielding is if that comes into being, Chris, if that's a concern right now, that's not good, because this is a guy, obviously, they thought he was a halfway decent player both ways, but if he's struggling with the bat and doesn't get it done in the field, again, it'll get even uglier quickly. So you and I, in about 2 weeks, will know where it's headed with this guy. Or is he going to be able to handle it, or is he going to be another Carl Crawford type?
Yeah, no, that's a great comparison too, Bob. That's fantastic. And Bob, we've for the guy that's on the opposite side of the dugouts right now, and at the beginning of the season from the Red Sox on the Pirate side, we've got our good friend Paul Alexander now joining us on the Kaiven Foods guest line. Hey, Paul, how are you?
Hey, Paul.
Gentlemen, I apologize. I was the victim of a dead phone. Sometimes you have no idea when your phone is dead, and I couldn't believe that my phone was dead. But I'm here, and I apologize if I'm a little late.
No worries, Paul. So, Paul, we were just, Bob and I were just talking about the Red Sox, and it's kind of an unusual start to the season, having interleague play between the Red Sox and the Pirates. But curious to get your thoughts on what you expect from this Pirates team this year.
Boy, you know what? The really scary part is, it's a 62-game season. I try to impart that to everybody that's in panic mode after what we've seen after the first two games. Unfortunately, though, in those first two games, a couple of things reared their ugly heads. People are concerned about Garrett Cole. Can he be an ace? Can he be a guy that can handle his emotions? Can he be a guy that, third time through the lineup, can he adjust in a manner that, will get guys out? Will he let little things bother him? Will he let defensive, lapses bother him? He gave up 5 runs in a half an inning. He was motoring through that Red Sox lineup, and all of a sudden he melted down. When this was supposed to be the season where he showed his maturity, he showed his chops. Everyone thought that, Andrew McCutchen, who's a National League MVP at one point, a perennial All-Star, had his first off year last year. So everyone expected, okay, deal with the move to right field, don't pout, be a big boy, and be okay. And okay, I mean, it's such a short sample, but his first game he goes 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts, and he had a couple men on base, for that third strikeout. When the big time players make big time plays in big time moments. So, granted, way too early to make any kind of judgments, but the major concerns that Pirate fans have going into this season kind of like put everyone into that, oh my gosh, here we go. But Jameson Taillon, I thought, who, when he and Cole were kind of considered on equal levels, and then Taillon had all the injuries, missed 2 full seasons with Tommy John and then a hernia situation. He is now fully healthy. And the scouts that I talked to when talking about those two guys said that the more powerful arm belongs to Garrett Cole. The pitching and the poise and the stuff are all Taillon. And you know what? That's what I prefer. I prefer a pitcher over a thrower. And I think right now we're still seeing that Cole's a bit of a thrower, that I thought this year would be maybe that point where, you realize when you spend your whole life being bigger, stronger, and you just blow people away, you don't develop the stuff that you need. A flat 98 is going to get hit out of every ballpark by major league hitters. Even though it's 98, which is freakish, if it's flat and it doesn't move and it's not located, it's going to get sent out. It's going to get hit hard. You need to mix up your pitches. You need to make hitters be off balance. You have to mix pitches. You have to throw pitches that are pretty much out of sequence. You know, what the great pitchers talk about is they work in reverse. You know, instead of getting ahead with, you know, the fastball for strike one, I'm throwing the curveball, you know, with my first pitch for strike one, just to get that hitter immediately off balance and not knowing what's coming next. And Taillon, to me, is that guy. I don't know really where Cole is in terms of his development. I love the first 4 innings. I mean, the first 4 innings, he looked pretty dominant. But you can't give up 5 runs in half an inning because you melt down. So it's so early, guys. You guys know that. This is a marathon. But at the same time, I mean, I hope to see a little different from Garrett Cole. I really did.
When you talk about McCutchen, Paul, you know, what are your thoughts on, you know, on where he's at, you know, with his tenure with the Pirates? You know, you mentioned the move to right field. There were trade rumors, you know, seemingly all off season about where he could end up and that sort of thing. How much do you think that plays into his psyche this year? And if the Pirates find themselves, you know, in a position 3rd, 4th place come All-Star break, could this be something that lingers with him and he ends up becoming, you know, trade talk again?
Yeah, I think he's still on the block. I don't think there's any question about that. If the Pirates would find themselves in position even for that second wild card, you don't deal Andrew McCutchen unless he's just having some sort of hideous season. I really expect him to have a good year. The thing that was very encouraging, he threw out a runner at home. He made a great home run stealing catch in right. So defensively, he showed up. You know, the bat unfortunately did not. But he has been a notorious slow starter. April has never been kind to him as a Pirate. I mean, it's never really been a good month for him. So I'm not overly concerned. And I think from his standpoint, I mean, here's a guy that took a real club-friendly contract where I think he knew he was going to outperform that contract, but the Pirates drafted him. It was more money. I mean, he grew up in a very modest situation. His parents are both educators. He's one of those few people in professional athletics that was like, I think I'll be okay on $54 million. That's all guaranteed. I know I could probably get more, but is that really the point? And that's what's so sad to me is people just get lost in the ego of, well, I'm better than he is and he's making more than I am, so I have to go get more than he does. And that's really, to be honest, that's how the structure of Major League Baseball salaries go. It's a matter of the agent saying, are you kidding me? You're going to settle for less money than that guy and he just got that? Do you realize how much better you are than him? That's the whole structure of salaries in Major League Baseball. It's all ego-driven. Kutch doesn't have that kind of ego, to his credit. But then again, the Pirates shopped him this offseason. Mm-hmm. So to me, here he is, the guy that gives them a club-friendly extension, and then they shop him. So I think there's some bitterness there. He tries very hard not to let it show, but I don't blame him. I mean, you know what's so strange in this world that we live in today? Like, there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty from corporate America. Someone puts in 25 years, and your 25th year anniversary, they're going to let you go because they can get someone cheaper for you. I mean, that's just the way it is. And that same person, if you've been treated well by your company, if someone offers you a couple more bucks, you're going to go. It's strange how we don't treat each other with respect and loyalty anymore. And I think Kutch right now feels completely disrespected. And I don't blame him. And it really was about, here he gives them 7 unbelievable years, an MVP year, all-star every year, as an off year, which still includes 24 home runs. And all of a sudden they're shopping him because he's making a club-high $15 million, which for Andrew McCutchen, the Pirates should understand that should be $22 or $23 million a year. So there is a strange relationship right now. I think it's estranged between Kutch and the Pirates. Yeah. So if things don't go well, come All-Star break or come anywhere near the trade deadline, he is certainly, if the Pirates are not in the playoff picture, Andrew McCutchen will not be here past the trade deadline, guaranteed.
Bob, questions for Paul?
Yeah, Paul, I have the utmost respect, as much respect for Clint Hurdle as maybe any manager in the game right now. And here's a guy that's already been a manager of the year and seems he's a 500 record in his career, but always seems to overachieve. You hear that word so much with him because of the way that Pirates are set up and the salary structure and everything. But how long is this guy going to be able to do that, Paul, without that huge financial backing? He just, he wills the team to win. He'll be a great leader, but how long can this go on?
Well, I think there's a little content right now. I mean, after the 21 years of losing, which is well documented, the longest consecutive professional, non-winning campaigns put together in the history of professional sports, it was brutal. We lived it. We endured it. They go 3 years in a row where they're wild card teams. 2 years ago, they win 98 games, but they happen to be in the best division in baseball, so that's good enough for third place, which is crazy if you think about it. Now they're still entangled with the Cubs and Cards. So, unfortunately, at $94 million, which is their current payroll, they're 23rd in Major League Baseball. The ownership here in Pittsburgh said, once we start to win and we start filling up the seats, we're going to put all that money back into our team. We're going to reinvest. We're going to put that money into a championship caliber contending team. And right now, you let Jay Happ go. To me, and this was the part where they really lost me. I tried to be. I'm not a company guy by any stretch, but I try to be someone that is the voice of reason. But the Francisco Liriano salary dump, which what it was, it included 2 prospects, which the Pirates always said will never deal prospects ever. But in order to have someone else take Liriano's contract, Pirates threw in a couple of prospects. To me, that's when they lost me. And the people that really have paid close attention, the really astute fans said, you know what, now you're selling me a bill of goods because you just dumped a salary. Meanwhile, Liriano's found himself again. How good would he be in this rotation right now? He would be a phenomenal second or third starter in this rotation right at this very moment, and you would still have your current, prospects that you gave up. And, oh, by the way, the guy that they tried to sell to the Pirate fans that was part of the deal coming back, he's in AAA making $2.5 million, Drew Hutchinson. So, you know what? Fans are too tuned in now. You can't BS the fans anymore. I used to use an old-fashioned saying, and I'm going to try to keep it as clean as I can. Don't do something down my neck and tell me it's raining. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's just not right. Fans are too astute. They're too tuned in. There's too much great reporting going on out there that are going to expose moves like that. And to me, the Liriano deal exposed this ownership as not being as legit as they contended to be as far as, we want to be a championship caliber franchise. And that's unfortunate.
And, Paul, one more. Just to switch sports quickly for a minute, I always like to get your opinion on the hockey side. The Penguins look like they're in a good spot right now. They're 30 games over 500, put up 7 goals again tonight. Crosby they all look good. They all scored tonight, basically. Your opinion about them heading into the playoffs?
We had a huge, huge blow when we were told, Chris Letang played his last regular season game February the 21st. How they are with NHL injuries. It was an upper body injury. He was making significant progress, had been skating. Someone somewhere, and again, we're in the information age. Someone said he had suffered a setback. God bless, Coach Sullivan coming out and saying, we think he's going to be okay. It was announced yesterday he's going to have herniated disc surgery on his neck, done for the postseason, out 4 to 6 months. He is their absolute best defenseman, and that's going to be tough to overcome. The roster is amazing. I really believe that they're really, really good. But when you lose your best defenseman, and we're talking about a defenseman that quarterbacks your power play and is also the guy that is the key defenseman on your penalty kill. The majority of offensive defensemen in the NHL wouldn't be caught dead killing a penalty because skill is moving the puck, shooting the puck, creating offense. The fact that he's both, he's the right-handed, and please, Bob, pardon me for saying this. I know you're a New Englander. He's the right-handed Bobby Orr when healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a bit of a stretch because Bobby Orr is one of the greatest of all time.
Sure.
I get that. But when Chris Letang is healthy and he's firing on all cylinders, he's the right-handed Bobby Orr, in my opinion. So to lose him for the entire postseason, that's a tough, tough pill to swallow. That's going to be very difficult to overcome. But they have Evgeny Malkin. They have Sidney Crosby. They bolstered the blue line a little bit with Hainsey, at the trade deadline. He's a big, strong, stay-at-home defenseman. It's just going to be that Metropolitan Division. They have Columbus in the first round. I think they'll get through that first round. But Columbus is going to hit. They're going to get 45 to 50 hits per game. So even if you win the series, you win the battle, but do you win the war? That's going to be crazy. We all know the Stanley Cup playoffs, that run, it's a game of attrition. It's the toughest run to a championship. You win a Super Bowl. If you win your division and maybe you're the number one seed in your conference, you have to win 3 7-game series, and then you play in the Stanley Cup Finals. And it's a war each and every night. So I think without Chris Letang, as much as this pains me to say, the Penguins might fall a little short. But they're going to make a heck of a run. They may make it even to the Stanley Cup Finals. They may make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But losing Chris Letang is a big blow.
Paul, before we let you go, let our listeners know how they can follow you on social media and stay up to date with all the great things you're doing.
Well, going to be doing a lot of Pirate baseball on Root Sports, and it's PAlexander44 on Twitter. And I just love all things positive that you guys do. I'm your biggest fans. I hope you guys know that, and it's such an honor and a thrill to be with you guys.
We appreciate you saying that, Paul, and we're huge fans of yours. That's why you're a member of our 2016 Hall of Fame class. So we can't thank you enough for coming back and being on the show tonight. We look forward to catching up with you again, we hope, real soon.
My pleasure, guys. Take care.
Take care, Paul.
All right, take care, Paul. That is Root Sports Pittsburgh TV and radio host Paul Alexander, and Paul is a great individual. He's not only a great host on TV and radio, but a finer individual you will not find. I promise you that. All right, now joining us on the Kyvan Foods guest line is our next guest, Dante Jones. Let me give you some background on Dante. He is from Houston, Texas. Played his college ball at Oklahoma, where he earned all Big 12 honors and was a consensus All-American in 1987. In the 1987 Orange Bowl, he was named the most valuable lineman with 9 unassisted tackles and an interception in their 42-8 rout of Arkansas. During that 87 season, he led Oklahoma with 118 tackles. His 312 career tackles has him in Oklahoma's top 20 of all time. His 4 interceptions in a season and 7 over his career are both top 3 all time for a linebacker at Oklahoma. He was a second-round draft pick in 1988 by the Chicago Bears, and he played in the league from 88 to 95 with the Bears and the Broncos. In 1993, he was named the Week 14 NFC Defensive Player of the Week, thanks in part to his 32-yard fumble return for a touchdown in their 30-17 win over the Packers. Over the course of his career in the NFL, he had 396 tackles, 4 interceptions, 5 fumble recoveries, and he scored that 1 touchdown. And we're excited that he is with us tonight here on Thursday Night Tailgate. Hey, Dante, Chris, and Bob here. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Dante.
No problem. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Good.
Very well, thank you, Dante. And hey, I want to go back, Dante, to your time playing at Oklahoma, and I'm curious as I was sort of looking back and saw that you were, from Houston, Texas. I'm guessing there weren't too many happy people when you announced that you were going to cross state lines and perhaps enemy lines to go play your college ball at Oklahoma. Talk about how Barry Switzer was able to convince you to do that.
I was born in Houston, but I was raised in Dallas, so I spent 16 years of my early life in Dallas. So I came out of Dallas, and Coach Switzer is a player's coach. He recruited me pretty hard, and he convinced me to come across that border. Back then, Oklahoma was way better than Texas, so it wasn't really much of a contest for me to make my way up north.
And Dante, you guys won the national championship in 1985. You guys played Penn State in the Orange Bowl, and Penn State came into that game ranked number 1. You guys were number 3, and you come away with a 25-10 win, thanks in large part to your defense. You guys got 4 interceptions in that game. You shut out Penn State in the second half. Talk about what it was like being a part of that game.
It was a great experience. Probably the thing I really remember most about my time in Oklahoma. Something that you can never take away as far as being national champion. My last 3 years at Oklahoma, we was 33-3, and we lost 3 games, all 3 to Miami. So I always tell people if it wasn't no Miami Hurricanes, I would have 3 national championships. But it was great, and it's out of all my Oklahoma rings, my national championship ring is the one I still wear. Penn State was a great team, and like I said, it came in number 1. And we had lost earlier to Miami, but luckily Miami ended up losing to they lost in the Sugar Bowl to somebody not that good. And so that helped us vault up to number 1 as we beat Penn State. So it was definitely a great and something I still remember today.
And talk about how you still remember it to this day. When you're in that game and the clock hits 0-0. And suddenly now you're national champions. What does that feel like? What did you do? What was the first thing you did when the clock hit 0-0?
I was feeling shocked, because it's something you always dream about as far as playing little league ball and high school football. Winning that championships is a dream. So it's not like I expected to be there, But once I got there, I was happy, and it was like a big dream. And I wish I had enjoyed it more, but I always felt like I was going to get back to that point again, win that championship. So I didn't really enjoy it like I should have because I thought I was going to win. Now, I thought the older guys, touch the football and pick up your coach and do all that kind of stuff. I figured that I was going to get back there to do it again, but I didn't do it. So that's the only thing I regret about that I didn't ever touch the trophy, that championship trophy.
And Dante, when you wake up the next day, is it a surreal feeling? You sort of realize, and I'm imagining you wake up, you're still kind of in a fog, but then all of a sudden the memory rushes back that, yesterday we won a national championship. Is it a surreal feeling to know that, just the day before you became a national champion?
No, not really, but I think once you look back on it, then you realize it finally hit you. Not the next day, but like my situation now, it's been 30 years. So 30 years later, you look back and say, man, we won that championship. How many players went to college and wanted to win that championship? We actually did it. So.
Bob, questions for Dante?
Hey, Dante, I want a little more about Switzer. I've always had so much respect for the guy. He was just such a tough coach, but and so successful down there. His name was synonymous with the Sooners. But tell us more about him. What were his individual strengths as a coach that you really enjoyed?
I think him being a player's coach. Like when he came to my house to visit me, he had on a mink coat and some boots. And he walked in like he already knew us. Already friends, the family, like he belonged there. When other coaches came by, I was like, So they were like scared and didn't know what to. Just it was totally different. He walked in like he's part of the family already, and so my parents trusted him, and that's the main thing. Once they met him, they liked him as much as I did. And so I met Coach Swiss. I'm like, I'm going to Oklahoma. So he's definitely a player's coach, and the players seem to gravitate toward him because of that.
And what was it like, Dante? You spent so much time in Texas, Oklahoma as a younger guy, and all of a sudden you're drafted and you're playing football in the frozen tundra, I should say, of Chicago. It's nothing quite like Soldier Field in January, as you know, Dante. How was that transition?
It was a culture shock. When we first got, the rookies first got to Chicago, all of us, we know about the Hawk. I'm like, Hawk? What's Hawk? They said, come November, and I get you to find out. So, I bought 4 or 5 different coats. I'm ready, and I found the right one, a leather coat that had down lining inside of it. Coat with a lining inside. And so, I don't want to look. I'm back in Texas, so I don't want to post anymore about I got them just in case. But yeah, it was definitely different. Different, a whole lot colder.
And Dante, you were, when you get to the Bears, you're playing alongside, most of the same guys that were still there from that '85 Bears defense, which is, arguably one of the best of all time. Talk about what it was like showing up at training camp and now trying to make a name for yourself when you're surrounded by guys like Mike Singletary and Dan Hampton and Richard Dent, William Perry, Dave Durst, and all the rest of the guys from that great defense.
It was a kind of crushed my ego. I came from being one of the big Oklahoma to a backup who wasn't, because I was all pro and they won the Super Bowl, and but there's all good guys, and they all taught the younger players a lot because under the wings, and Mike Singletary was probably the best middle linebacker in football NFL history. He taught me a lot as far as just watching film and being a professional, and how to diagnose plays, and playing with Fred. It was like just meeting those guys you've seen on TV who were bigger than life. It was like something new for me, and I definitely enjoyed it. And those guys are friends for life.
And you mentioned Mike Singletary, Dante, and when you see Mike Singletary on the old game films, boy, he sure looked like a crazy man with the big wide eyes, from staring out from behind, the face mask during games. But he always sort of came across to me in interviews as a very intelligent, cerebral sort of guy, off the field. Is that what he was like? Was he a different guy on the field than he was off the field?
It's like that, off the field, mad with his glasses on, and went to his back. Well, he put a helmet on, he was a totally different person. It was like a night and day type of thing. Nicest guy you ever want to meet, but you get him on the football field, he's a player you don't want to go up against. So, and the guy off the field was the guy you want to meet, not off the field. But like I said, he was one of the smartest guys I knew as far as just studying game film, getting the playbook, knowing what plays coming before he snaps. He did the hollering plays, and also I played behind him for 5 years, and he only missed one game that entire time, and that was like the second half of the game. So he never got hurt, which kind of wanted to play more, but it probably prolonged my career because I never was hurt. I never had to play some special teams, and I still don't know how he never got hurt. In just one game he did, and that was like the second half of the game. But that's a great player who the determination didn't have great size, but he had a lot of heart. And like I said, he knew what play was coming because he just diagnosed it and studied the game plan just like that.
And Dante, you played for Mike Ditka. He was the head coach there for the first few years you were in Chicago, and obviously we've seen the videos of him and some of the ranting and the raving on the sidelines. Was he that intense during the week and at practice as well?
Yes. He's the toughest coach I know. And knew where you stood with him. You know, he take yourself.
We're starting to lose your cell a little bit, Dante.
Can you hear me? Hello?
I think we got you back. Yeah, we were starting to lose you there for a second.
No, he told me, he said, Dante, you keep stuff on. Get my act together and just. He gave me. He told me what every player wants to hear, the truth, and so you got to respect him for that.
And Dante, you know, one more before we let you go, but you know, one of the guys that you also had on those Bears teams was a great friend of the show, a guy we think very highly of, and that's Wendell Davis. You know, what do you remember about playing alongside Wendell?
Me and Wendell was in the same class, same draft class. He was first round. He was the first class. That bus was number 2, and I was the third chosen. But Wendell's a great guy, and
Still with us, Dante? I think we're losing your cell again.
You hear me? Hello?
Yep, we got you.
Okay. He's a great player. It's sad what happened, with playing in Philadelphia, and he blew his knees out on the bad turf. But if he hadn't had that happen, he probably would have went down as one of Chicago's all-time great wide receivers.
Dante, before we let you go, let our listeners know how they can stay up to date with what you're doing, and give you a follow online or on social media.
Dante Jones. I'm on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram. You check me out there.
Fantastic, Dante. Thank you so much for being patient with us tonight and being a part of the show. We certainly love to have you come back and join us again sometime.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Take care, Dante. All the best to you and your family.
Okay. Thank you.
That's former Oklahoma and Chicago Bears linebacker Dante Jones. And, Bob, unfortunately we lost a lot of the cell reception in there. But you want to talk about a tough gig coming out of college and trying to break in with that Bears defense. Boy, that's got to be a tall task.
Yeah, tough guy, Chris. Think about guys like himself who played with under a Barry Switzer and a Ditka. Do you get any tougher than that? I mean, so he had the background, and 87 games in Chicago he played, and it was a very, very good linebacker. And of course, he played defense in Chicago back in those days, Chris. There was a lot of pride, and Dante kind of underestimated himself a little bit. He wasn't a big man either. But there's safeties that are his size playing right now. But, yeah, he had the smarts, too, and was a great player. Great to have him on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to our Thursday night tailgate spotlight on the positive. Bob, who do you have for us this week?
Oh, man, so many to choose from. Earlier in the week, Chris, I came across the biography of Sam Acho, speaking of the Bears linebackers. Sam was he has done some incredible things. This is a guy who takes yearly trips with his family. He goes to medical missions down to Nigeria, and he's part of this Living Hope Christian Ministries. It was founded by his parents. So he goes down there every year to help people that don't have access to good medical care. So he's big with that, Chris. And when he's back in the States, he does an awful lot of public speaking, especially to kids. He does a lot of missionary type stuff. Very religious type guy. Again, does a lot with school children. Is big for the Play 60 thing, which the NFL is so big on. And again, Children's Hospital, you'll always see him there. He brings a lot of his teammates with him, and does a lot of things. The Hallis family there has always been does a lot of wish granting, and he's big with that. Boys and girls clubs there. Again, his resume is quite the huge one, and I would urge people, if you want to find out more about what Sam has done, go to the NFL.com, check out the Man of the Year section. Him with about another 28 guys have done so many great things, but tonight we want to recognize the Bears and Sam Acho for what they do.
Yeah, very good. And, Bob, this week I want to put the spotlight on Arizona Cardinals quarterback Drew Stanton and his High Five Foundation. You know, Bob, back in 2008, Stanton established, the High Five Foundation, which focuses on improving the quality of life for all people with, varying disabilities through raising public awareness about them first and then inspiring individuals towards achieving their personal goals despite whatever they have, whatever the challenges that they're facing are. And as a result of his various fundraising activities, which includes an annual golf tournament, a kickball tournament back in his home state of Michigan, Stanton's Foundation is able to support, fundraising for 5 different organizations. So they collect the money from all the things that they do, and they spread it amongst 5 different organizations. And those 5 organizations are the Special Olympics of Michigan, the Children's Miracle Network, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, Orchard Children's Services, and Sparrow Children's Center. The foundation was, able to provide uniforms, Bob, for the 2014 Special Olympics Winter Games. So they took, they did all of these things for all these various organizations. Plus, they made it a goal. Right? Special Olympics is, near and dear to his heart, and they came up and they were able to, give them uniforms for the 2014 Winter Olympic Games, which is outstanding. And then in 2015, the High Five Foundation was presented with the Joe Falls Inspiration Award at the annual Special Olympics Inspire Greatness Gala back up in near his hometown in Detroit. So, and that award recognizes an individual that's involved with Special Olympics Michigan, obviously, but also someone who has a very historic and a very dramatic impact on their many various programs that they do within the Special Olympics Foundation. So, he's had such a dramatic impact. And it's so near and dear to his heart with with Special Olympics that he's driven to do these sorts of things. And God bless him, for being recognized for the great stuff that he's doing. But in addition to all of that, Bob, last year in partnership with the Taylor Haugen Foundation, he and his foundation helped outfit football teams, at the high school that he graduated with, which is Harrison High up there. Plus, they got together and they got special equipment to help protect players up in that area from internal injuries as well. So he's got a lot of things that he's doing. He's helping a lot of different organizations, not only just Special Olympics, but like I say, the Children's Miracle Network, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, and then also, helping out, his alma mater, his high school alma mater, plus other schools in that area with protective equipment. So, kudos to Drew Stanton for what he's doing and all the great things that his High Five Foundation is doing. And, for those folks out there that want to check out Drew's foundation, please do it online at High Five, and it's, High, H-I-G-H, High, the number 5, and then IVE. So they're, making it, kind of a vanity sort of URL. So it's High 5 with the number 5 IVEfoundation.org. So please go check it out and do what you can to help support those folks. And like I say, very much impressed with what Drew Stanton is doing for so many different organizations, Bob.
That's terrific, Chris. And again, I think a lot of us know. We've been doing this for a while, Chris. We know which guys are involved heavily in things, but probably not to what extent until you start explaining it like you do. And to see how much these guys, how generous they are, and how they spread the wealth, it's really impressive. You wonder almost how they can do it with the rigors of being a professional athlete. But that just gives us more respect for them. And again, that High Five Foundation is great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Bob, it is time for us to put a bow on this episode of Thursday Night Tailgate. We want to send out our thanks again to Beau, Bock, Tony Collins, Scott Lockwood, Paul Alexander, and Dante Jones for joining us and being a part of the show tonight. And, Bob, as always, my thanks to you, my friend. Can't imagine a better way to spend a Thursday night.
I appreciate that, Chris. We had a good time. Old friends, new ones, always a lot of fun, whether we're talking baseball, basketball, hockey, baseball. Bring it on, right?
That's right. And next week, who do we have scheduled to join us? And, Bob, this is going to be a show right up your alley, my friend. Our good friend and former University of Minnesota star and CFL All-Star quarterback Ricky Foggy is going to be back with us. Got a couple of tight ends joining us on the show next week. Former Bengals tight end M.L. Harris will be back with us, as will former Dolphins tight end Jed Weaver. And, Bob, we know how much you enjoy talking to the tight ends, so looking forward to having those two guys as a part of the show. And, and former Colts fullback Roosevelt Potts will be back on the show. So we look forward to catching up with Roosevelt, plus, of course, Tony Collins, who joins us every week. So we're going to have a lot of fun next week. We hope all of you will come back and join us on the show. I want to remind you, how can you follow us and stay up to date with what we're doing on social media? Well, please visit our Facebook page, Thursday Night Tailgate, and give us your thoughts, and we really appreciate those things. Give us a like as well. That's important to us. Plus, Bob and I both have our own Facebook pages as well, so you can find us both on there. And on Twitter, you can find me at CT-mascaro. Bob is at Bob_Lazzari, and the show is at TNT Podcast. Plus, you can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free, folks, by going to the great podcasting site, Podbean. Boy, those folks have just been tremendous to us, featuring our show, making it a recommended show. You can find us, both online at podbean.com and on their mobile app as well. Can't thank those folks enough. And folks, they've got great podcasts across all genres on podbean.com and on their mobile app as well. So please, if you've got, something that you love, and hopefully two of those shows are one is Thursday Night Tailgate and our show on the golf side, Next on the Tee. But they've got great shows across, like I say, every single genre. So please go check out Podbean. You're going to be very glad that you did. Also want to make sure that you check us out on, you can find us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Player.fm, other streaming sites as well. So, if you've got a favorite site that you like to stream content from, chances are we're on it. So please check us out there as well. And I don't want to get off the show tonight without mentioning our good friend Renee Shull over at Integrated Play. And you can find her online at careerengagement.institute, folks. Renee is a fantastic person. She does great work, for some of our guests that have been in transition from being pro athletes and are now getting into the to the regular job market. So please, if you happen to find yourself in job transition, or you just want to be in job transition, you're ready to move on, find something else, please go check out Renee. You can follow her on Twitter at Integrated Play, and you can find her online at careerengagement.institute. Bob, take us home, my friend.
Thanks, Chris, and you have a great week. And again, thanks to our announcer, Joe Lajanusa, for the great job he does with our weekly intro and ads, and to James Brocato and all the guys from Painted Faces for the upcoming outro music. On behalf of myself and Chris, thanks to everyone out there tonight for listening. We appreciate you the most. Until next week, good night, Kevin. We miss you.